This is day 37 of the 1000 Characters in 1000 Day Challenge. Today I am talking about George from Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. What's up, y'all? I'm Jax, and I like to read. George, I suppose, is our main character, one of the two. He is the companion to Lenny, who is kind of a mentally slow individual, we will say. Somebody that George has been taking care of for a large portion of his life. And George deeply cares for Lenny. And Lenny is always getting into trouble, not necessarily, it's his fault, but he has some mental disabilities that make it hard for him to kind of assimilate. It leads to him making some bad decisions, and not that Lenny has a bad heart by any means. It's just something that gets him into trouble. And George, while he is kind of outwardly annoyed and he can give Lenny a hard time sometimes, I think it comes from a good place for the most part. He's trying to help Lenny, and when he gets on him about certain things and the way he's acting, he's trying to protect him because Lenny can do some things, as we find out, that are pretty dangerous and can get him into a lot of trouble. And George is just trying to keep his friend, who he loves, out of trouble. They want to buy a place together. That's their goal, to go live out there where Lenny can have his rabbits. Despite all of George's efforts, and I really do think that George truly cared about Lenny, and I just think that it was a real shame how this book had to end, but the signs were kind of there the entire time. It really is a tragic ending. I mean, most people have read this book, but I had not read it when I read it recently in the last couple months. And that ending, I mean, I knew what happened, but that ending, as you read it, it just really tears your heart out. But you feel for George, because it's kind of like, what can you do? You know, would Lenny's fate have been any better had he taken kind of the common path to justice, going to jail, etc.? Probably not. And George he had to make a really tough decision, and he did. And I think it was out of care for Lenny and just care for others, that Lenny wouldn't be able to get himself and them in trouble, and he wouldn't be able to hurt anybody. And that's just a terrible decision to have to make. And I'm glad that it was very clear that George loved Lenny. It wasn't just like, oh, I got to put this dog down. It was very clear that he loved him, and that made the decision even more gut-wrenching, but it made it more like, okay, I'm doing this as a service to Lenny rather than to punish him, I guess. Have you read Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, one of the great friendship stories ever written? Let me know what you think of George and his ultimate decision down in the comments, and I will see you tomorrow for day 38 of this 1000 Day Challenge.